All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Post Game Live, brought to you by your New England Ford dealers. Patriots win this game. Final is 27-13. Patriots over the Arizona Cardinals on a Monday night. They are now 7-6. They leapfrog Ted Johnson. They leapfrog the Los Angeles Chargers. They leapfrog the New York Jets. If the playoffs were held today, but they're not, but if the playoffs were held today, they'd be in the number 7 spot, the last and 7th spot in the AFC. So Tommy Curran is here, Ted Johnson. We got to figure this out. If you have to just put a tag on this game, Curran, a really weird game tonight in the desert, how would you tag it?
Bottom line is a very, very necessary win, regardless of how it came. And we had our laughs, and we had our chuckles, and we had our disparaging comments about all the screens. But in the end, the Patriots defense did what the Patriots defense has habitually done for really 3 years, maybe even 4 if you go back to 2019. They beat up on a team when they needed to and propped up an offense that was having some difficulty moving the ball. So Raekwon McMillan, star of the night, and the Patriots pass rush helped secure it for him, Ted.
Yeah, I've said this before. You know, it's just one of those games. Again, it was kind of a cherry on top of a pile of poo is what that was. But, hey, it's a cherry nonetheless. They had to have this win. So, I mean, there was urgency to win this football game. And although it didn't look pretty a lot of times, it was still effective. You know, it really was the Arizona Cardinals. At the end of the day, giving them a lot of plays. They were undisciplined, the penalties, the turnovers, that kind of thing. But the Patriots defense, I'll give them credit. They look pretty good tonight. And Josh Uche, really more than really Matthew Judon for me is really impressive as what he's doing as a pass rusher, because he's really beating guys one-on-one. So I think from the defense, it's a nice little thing to see. And then Marcus Jones, another good kind of a story from tonight, doing it on all special teams, of course, offense and now defense.
And Matt Cassel is here as well, live from Nashville via Zoom. Cassel, what did you see in this game tonight?
Yeah, it was an interesting game. The first half was really touch and go with what was going on with the offensive unit. They were able to put one sustained drive together that third series. But again, there were some issues again with the inconsistency factor, right? The penalties, the sack that created the interception. He touched it, he hit the hand and set up a short field for the Cardinals. But really for the second half, it was the defense. They went out and absolutely dominated the second half of this ball game. They had the interception right after that, or right before that. They had the strip, and they were able to return that, Raekwon McMillan, for a touchdown. So the defense just took over the game in the second half. The offense didn't have to do too much. But the one thing I was impressed with during this game was Mac Jones. I thought he had complete control of the offense all night long. He knew where he wanted to go with the ball. His processing ability was at a really high level tonight. He delivered the ball accurately. I just thought it was a really solid night all around for Mac Jones.
I love watching Ted Johnson in these situations, because I can tell, like what Curran says, look, hey, by any means necessary, you need a win. You needed a win. You're 7-6.
He starts to shift restlessly.
And Ted is doing like, oh, it's the bad football that just really irritates you. Is that what it is? Just like seeing things that just aren't up to a standard that you'd expect from a playoff team? Is that what it is?
That's it. So we're talking the Patriots in the playoffs, and as we should. And well, look, Michael, you and I have been talking about this all season long. Kind of, is it about just getting to the playoffs and hey, let things fall where they may, and then the rest of the NFL isn't playing good. But I'm looking more at it the big view, and I look more at it is this team getting better as the season goes on. And tonight, let's face it, I mean there were some good things, and we can get excited about the defense. I get it, but they had 4 new starters on the offensive line. They had their backup quarterback in the game, and it looked like a very disinterested team, much like what people thought the Patriots were going into this game. And so it's hard for me. I didn't look at this game, and I didn't see the Patriots take this game. They didn't go out and take the game. They're basically just capitalizing off of what.
I'm going to wait for you to implode.
I want to see the Patriots take a game.
Pile drive them. I mean, just take them and pile drive them. Again, the first third down they faced this week, after last week being in a 3rd and 1 and having a miscue between Stevenson and Mac Jones, first third down of this week, you had a false start on Trent Brown. The mismanagement, in my estimation, and I think many people's, judging by social media, mismanagement of the end of the half. You're handing off with 10 seconds left. You're in field goal range at the 28. And you're trying to gain how many yards to get what, a 40-yard field goal instead of a 45-yard field goal? Which would have then invited a little bit of a fire drill to get it done, get the timeout called. What if they let him run down to the 10 and then propped him up? And Just bizarre decision-making. And the screen fest that you watch, it's hard to really set off, the confetti streamers after a game like that, because you again don't get a definitive answer as to whether or not this team is prepared for the stretch run.
But isn't that cliche? We always talk about that cliche. Games in the NFL aren't necessarily won; they're lost. And a lot of times you hear that and you say, I don't know about that. But in this case, for the New England Patriots at 7-6. That's really where they are. They'll just sit there and they'll wait. It's like they are not the boxer who will go out there and knock you out in the third round. They're going to wait for the decision or for you to just tap out. You're going to tap yourself out. Okay, the fight is over. But they don't have the knockout punch. They just kind of survive and see what happens.
And look, let's face it, that's part of the Patriot DNA. I've been on plenty of teams where you're kind of waiting for the other team to screw up, but. We also were in attack mode. We also had a very aggressive mindset. In our play calling and in our players, and it just doesn't seem they have a very aggressive kind of mindset, an attacking mindset. And I think you can sit back and win a lot of games. There's a lot of games that have a lot of teams that have bad coaching, that have backup quarterbacks, that have a lot of injured offensive linemen, like the Cardinals did tonight. And you can go feast on those teams. But does it say good? Do you feel good about being there?
Hey, Tom, tell me if you agree with this. I think Ted is missing one thing. Talk about the teams that you were on. Teams also had more talent. I mean, come on, Ted. On one team, okay, you're 2,000.
You think the offense has more talent than people give it credit for?
No, I'm not saying they don't. I'm not saying they don't have
talent. By the end of tonight, there was a staring contest going on between these two.
You had championship talent.
Going to make more
Ted,
mistakes.
you had championship talent on your roster. Look at your linebackers room. You got Willie McGinnis and Teddy Bruschi, and Ted Johnson is there, and Roosevelt Colvin is there. I mean, you got all of these guys. Mike Vrabel.
Well, now that you put it that way.
I mean, really.
So how does that apply to what you're saying about waiting for the other team to make a mistake?
Because they would wait for them, but also had the ability to squeeze the life out of them. These current Patriots, and Matt Cassel, tell me if you agree with this, they'll wait for you. Part of the reason they're waiting for you is they don't have the ability to squeeze the life out of you. So that part of the waiting is part of their weaponry.
They're clinching.
That is part of it. We're going to hold on, and then we'll see what happens.
They're going to hold
in
on
the fourth
for dear
quarter.
life. They're not going to give up the big plays like you saw tonight, and then they're going to be opportunistic, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. Offense, it's few and far between when you're going to see big plays. Tonight, the game plan was don't get beat by the blitz. They knew that Vance Joseph was going to come after Mac Jones, and they had a little toolbox, right? You saw Mac Jones at the line of scrimmage, signaling, checking to the quick screen, get those one-on-one opportunities. And for them, that was an extension of the run game tonight. All they were trying to do was get the ball outside, pick up 4 or 5 yards, and continue to get ahead of the down and distance. But they weren't able to do that consistently. Again, there's delay of games. And the two times that they actually were trying to throw the ball downfield, one was an interception because they couldn't hold up in protection because it was a slow developing play. The crossing route's wide open. Mac Jones knows where he wants to go. His arm gets hit, and it's an interception. The second time they tried to go downfield in the first half, it's, again, a sack. So you look at this and you go, how do we protect Mac Jones? How do we continue to get the ball down the field? They were able to do it on the 2 seam routes, the Hunter Henry, but they're not able to consistently hold up in protection to allow him to get the ball down the field.
I want to ask all you guys a question. All right, I'm going to throw it back at you if you don't mind, because I think the biggest question coming into this game. It's not like, what were the one-on-one matchups? It wasn't about the coaches. It was about, in my opinion, were the Patriots going to buy in? Did it look like a team that was really playing together? Were they all on the same page? After that, losing that Buffalo game, that was an embarrassing loss. Were they going to galvanize? There was a lot of talking. It looked that maybe, the players were starting to kind of jump ship. Do we think that this team, did they look like they were bought in tonight? To me, that's the biggest takeaway. To me, they were or they weren't.
They looked like, offensively, Mac Jones looked like, I will go along to get along, but don't piss me off.
Right.
It's like if you've had a little bit of a squabble with your significant other and you still have to go out that night and you get in the car and you say, we're just going to make this work tonight, right? Yeah, we're going to make it work. Don't say that thing again, though. I won't. And then you say, what did I say? And I think that's what was going on a little bit. They eventually got to that spot. They got to the party. They had a nice time, surprisingly enough, at the party. And then they got home. And you know what? They're going to go out again next week, I think. Yeah. They had such a nice time. But they didn't think they were having a good time for a while there.
There are a lot of couples out there who just saw that short film. We're like, okay, who is that? Okay, is that me? Okay, yeah, I've been there. But when you talk about buy-in, Ted and Matt, I want you guys to weigh in, all of you, weigh in on this. When I was thinking, I heard this a lot before the game. Who are we talking about? Really? Are we talking about Mac? Because, I don't think you're worried about Matthew Slater buying in. I don't think you're worried about Devin McCourty buying in. Judon seems like he's bought in. Like, are we really talking about offense? You're talking about Mac and Kendrick Bourne? Because I think it's fair, but I think it's fair.
The word buy-in.
Right, but yeah, I think it's fair to, you know what, Ted? And I think it's fair to talk about certain guys, but do you really want to say the whole team? That's a big statement. The whole team has not bought in. That's hard.
But when you hear guys chirping like they were last week, I mean, there was enough guys.
How many of them? Half dozen.
There was enough guys on offense that were chirping.
Right.
That is a small sample size, but they represent a lot of guys on that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's the only reason they would be speaking up. If they thought they were lone soldiers and lone wolves out there, they're like, I'm just going to say these things and no one's going to have my back. They wouldn't say those things. They're saying those things knowing that they have the backing of their teammates. That's how it works, Michael.
Matt, you see it that way? Do you think that there was a buy-in? We know there was a buy-in issue last week. The guys were upset. How about today? What did you see on that field?
There was absolutely a buy-in. And at the end of the day, though, when you're talking about the offense, this has been going on since you're talking about summertime, when you're in training camp, when Kendrick Bourne's, having some complaints, when Mac Jones has issues with how the offense is being called or some of the plays that are being put in. But when you're not doing well and frustration starts to set in, people can make excuses. They can go to the media and say this, that, and the other. But when you saw them out there tonight, there was buy-in. I didn't see lack of effort. But at the same time, I think at times with this team, offensively in particular, they're overmatched. They don't have the best personnel. When Devontae Parker went out early in the game, now you've got Jacoby Myers out. You got Devontae Parker out. You got to rely on all these other guys. Tyquan Thornton was able to step up a little bit, but Nelson Aguilar, once again, I don't think it was due to buy-in, but he had 3 drops in this game, and his play has been inconsistent. They just haven't had the consistency factor to feel good about themselves, and that's frustrating at this point in the season. And I've been part of those teams where you're trying to find answers, and you can't, and maybe that's when you're describing buy-in, it's not that you're not buying in to what you're trying to get accomplished. You're just not able to do it. And that's the part that's frustrating for players.
There's frustration, which we've seen, I think, all summer into the fall. And then I think it crested with exasperation. Okay, I've been so frustrated. Now I'm sick of it. And then tonight, had things not gone well, I think you could have had resignation. We tried. We got in the car. We tried to drive and have a nice time, and it didn't work.
Back to that party.
So, to me, there would have been resignation if it didn't work. Like, when you bring up, for instance, Kevin Harris's touchdown run, or the run blocking, or the effort of Nelson Aguilar on some plays, or some of the plays that were made in the secondary, Jelani Tavai making plays. Those guys are all still buying in to make plays. But I think there's resignation that had this not worked out in a particular way,
they needed
guys like Mac Jones would have said, great job.
They're desperate.
Great, but we needed this to not be resigned.
They were desperate for a win, and to what illustrates what you're talking about is Mac Jones. A couple of plays, the cameras caught him at separate times. At one, he had to call a timeout early in the third quarter. 2 minutes into the third quarter, their first drive, they get the ball first. They got to call a timeout. He goes to the sideline. He goes, I'm not going to say it, but I want to. I'd say it in the green room right here. So he's cussing here like he was cussing last week. And then another time.
That's the third play to start the second half.
There it is right there.
Oh,
and then another one, he's kind of like waving. He's waving off Patricia or Judge or Belichick. And another time he's talking to Kendrick Bourne, who was really not on the same page as he was. Now, all of that goes away because they won the game, right?
Yeah. For a week it does. For a week it does.
But
it doesn't go away for the rest of the season. But if you lose against the Raiders next week,
you're right back here.
You're right back to where you were.
Matt, does he have the latitude to get pissed off like this now and not have it revisit and be spoken about during the week?
See, it's an interesting thing because in pregame I said I was okay with him getting frustrated and going over and, letting out some of his emotions and showing that he's the leader of this team and he's got a say and all that stuff. But when you start to make it a pattern, then I think it works against you at the quarterback position, and it kind of makes you look like you're a little bit weak-minded and not mentally tough. To me, watching him go out there and get frustrated all the time and go and try to rip his OC and kind of show him up on national television, that's not the look you're going for as a starting quarterback of your franchise, to be quite frank with you. Instead, I'd like him to go over, be pissed off, but you don't have to scream and yell and have all the antics that he had out on the field. That just brings more attention to it. Like you guys said, they'll get through this because it's a win. They feel good about what just took place, and they're still in the mix. But at the end of the day, if this was a loss, then now you're starting to have all these different rumblings, and it creates more chaos inside the building, and you've got to answer those questions.
Ted Johnson, I know you want to rush the quarterback on this. I know you do.
We'll get him.
But hold on. We got plenty more coming up.